So we're here because we read that book. You want to flip that book towards me? And for you folks who weren't here, nice flip. Okay, it was sold, and we have copies if you need it. She was a girl who lived in India. She was like 13, 12? 13, and her father, her stepfather, sells her to a brothel. A brothel is a house of prostitution. So she goes, and she is totally not understanding what's going on, but she lives there for quite a while. And at the end, she is luckily taken out. An American comes who is working on trying to stop this human trafficking, and she finally believes him, and he does take her away, and she is safe. So we got to talk, and so Officer Yin was available, and he says this is happening right here in our own town. It's more common than you think. So Officer Yin is going to talk about it. I did ask him to let us know what could we do to help these people. So he's going to talk. He's happy to have you have a question. If you have a question, kind of raise your hand and be polite. I know Cecilia is coming because she told me she was coming, and other people may come. If you have your lunch, feel free to eat. This is, you only have until 12:20 or so. So we're going to talk fast. We have until 12:25.
12:25.
So we have about 25 minutes, and the Mr. Dahmer's kids have been gracious enough to practice their video skills. This is an important part of our day. So, Officer Yin, there you go. I'm passing it over to you.
Okay. I'm Officer Yen. I'm your school resource officer here. You guys may have seen me around campus, parked out front, or just kind of doing stuff. When I usually tend to give presentations or talk with people, I tend to be very, very informal. So I'm very big on Q&A. If anybody has a question, I'll do my best to answer. If I do not have the answer, I will do everything I can to get you guys an answer. I can always write everything down.
You ready for this?
But we can just go around the table, and just everyone can just introduce themselves, so that way I know who you are, and just what grade you're in, and what you like about school.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a junior in high school.
Oh.
I like book club. Do you want me to? I'm Stacey Johnston. I'm an English teacher. I like book club too.
Took her 5 years to join her. And boy. Took her 5 years, but yeah.
I'm Cheyenne. I'm a junior, and I like the diversity of this school.
You're cute, Cheyenne.
I'm Mariana. I'm in 9th grade, and I just like this school.
I'm a sophomore and I like the class. I'm Guadalupe. I'm book club president, and I like Miss Lee and library. I'm a junior.
My name's Berkeley. I am a junior, and I like the wide variety of clubs that they offer.
I'm Cameron. I'm a sophomore, and I like the club in the library.
I'm Prentice. I'm a senior. Things I like about the school is, it sounds like the diversity, like she said. I've been here for so long, I kind of just
And you're senior now, so 4 years now.
I'm Todd. I'm a junior, and I like the people here.
I'm Cecilia. I'm a junior, and what I like, there's a lot of things that I like, I guess. I like having stuff like this where people come together and learn about different things.
I'm Joanne Lagamari. I'm the teacher librarian. I like book club and reading and getting kids to talk about serious things like this.
Awesome. So, from what I understand, you guys were concerned because you guys may have been unaware, like, if the possibility that this stuff might be actually happening locally. The truth of the matter is, actually, Sacramento is kind of a major port for human trafficking. Actually, one of the more major ones in the state. We see there are several different sections of town where this stuff does occur. I didn't have a chance to read the book, so I don't know exactly the very specific, this individual's specific situation that got her in to become a victim of human trafficking. It sounds like it was, from what you guys have said,
Her
family sold
her stepdad sold her.
I have not run across cases of that. Usually, however, what we do end up finding is a lot of it are youth that may not have a lot of support, a lot of personal support, a lot of emotional, just even family support, tend to start, kind of doing the lashing out, not good with school, going out with school, just staying out, hanging out with the wrong people. And then at some point some of them start getting moved towards that direction, depending on whatever the situation may be. And what's really actually bad about it is the people who bring these victims into that world are, in every sense of the word, a predator. We've seen just they feed on the actual full-on psychological mindset of their victim, and they can do it for each individual person. So with everybody sitting here at this table, individually, each of you, there's a way that you can be affected. You know, someone can talk to you, and you know, one thing that somebody would say to you could make you feel really good, make you feel really prideful, safe, secure. Somebody says the exact same thing to you, might not. And the way these predators work is they're able to able to move from person to person to person and actually pick them out. We've seen evidence collected of full-on notebooks, full-on spiral notebooks that you guys have in your backpack that has a whole list of like a script that they would use to actually talk with these victims to try and get them to see their direction, make them feel good, make them believe that everything that they're telling them is the truth, the entire rest of the world doesn't care about. And they feed them and they actually start to believe that. So that's one way they start moving in with that direction. And then with that, they start either getting the victim to coerce the victim into actually finding more victims to join, to come along, or actually just to be abducted. I think one of the more ones I've heard recently was some of these, so pretty much we would end up being the pimps, the ones who would actually bring the victim in and, you know, be the controller, is actually use their other victims to get in trouble and actually get arrested, to go into jails to try and get more people to recruit. Because it is, unfortunately, sometimes it tends to be that where those victims are, just how they are and how they view the world. Sometimes they tend to be in trouble, so they're very not, I'm trying to figure out a good way
They
to
can
say
take it, you can be pretty blunt here, it's not like you'll embarrass anybody.
No, well, I'm just trying to figure out exactly how I want to say it. But they're able to, pretty much go in and recruit and feed on that person's ability to, be mad at the world. Well, we understand you. I know where you can be understood. It's okay, pretty much like that.
But once they get in, then it's hell to get out.
Yeah, once they get in, and then we've seen the other side of that where there is that recruitment where they get in, and once they get in, the mindset and the way these people think is they do believe they're nothing, almost pretty much, to an extent, not everybody, but a lot of them, what they'll end up thinking is that they are nothing but property. And we have seen them where they flat out have tattoos that say property of so-and-so, somebody, the pimp, the leader, whoever. I mean, flat out, full on. And they'll say, oh yeah, no, property. That's all I'm, property, that's it. And they'll do anything for that person. Like I said, at that point, they've attacked them and they've gotten into them so psychologically, it's hard to get them to view the world in any other way. And that's what just almost kind of the stuff that we see locally, where they actually stay here. But as far as like the actual, obviously that still has to go with human trafficking. But what we have seen are crews that run where they actually snatch people up. And before you know it, that person, that victim, they're gone. They're somewhere. Bay Area, South, another state, they're somewhere else. And those are the same people that feed and network and bring them into the state. Because at some point, at certain points, we start running across victims and people that are out there. And when we end up IDing them, finding out where they're from, we start finding out a lot of them are like influx. I remember at one point, we were getting a whole influx of people, like everyone you talked to, they were all from the Bay Area. Nobody was from Sacramento. Everybody was born, raised, Oakland, San Francisco, San Jose, somewhere else.
So how old or young are you seeing?
We've seen them as young as 13, 12. I mean, they're not in school. It's not like they're, the other side about it, it's not like they're also being held prisoner to an extent. Because they're not being allowed to be like, oh, okay, well, you need to go to school, so go to school, get your stuff, but then when you come back, you're going, no. They keep them out. Their whole thing is they don't, predators know what they're doing. It's all crime. It's all criminal. And they know that. So all they do is just hold them. I mean, they truly are. They're a victim. No.
Questions?
To what extent do drugs play in this?
They'll very much. They'll use drug. They get them hooked on drugs as well. It's not just possibly, obviously, inadvertently getting them under the influence of drugs, even when they're supposedly at work to do what it is, to perform their acts they need to perform. But they get them hooked on drugs and narcotics or anything else as a way to have control over them. 100% what it always is, it's all about control. They don't care anything about the individual whatsoever, but they make the individual believe that, and they use that to control the person. And the control is there, and you can see it, especially if you talk to them, because they'll say things that make absolutely no sense. Like the person was trying to hurt him and trying to kill him. Oh no, well, he just gets like that. No, he didn't. Well, it happens. But you still gonna stay around? Yeah. No, I'm still here.
So when you go in a situation and you see I'm gonna say girl because most of them are girls, although there are boys too. If they're underage, do you get to pull them out because they're underage, or do you have to look for their parents? Or
Well, immediately, obviously, once we start, because usually, obviously, the context in which we contact some of the people are, obviously suspicious circumstances. Obviously, like when you're contacting them like 9 o'clock at night, walking down the street, and they're looking for prostitution or anything like that. Then obviously we have responsibility for any juvenile to go make contact, identify them, and then obviously make contact with them. And sometimes that turns into finding out the person was missing, person's a runaway, either locally or from any number of those things. At which point we take custody of them, and it's either trying to figure out what's going on. If guardians are local, we obviously release the guardians. If not, then it may end up being have to take them to the receiving home or something like that. So that way the child protective services can come talk to them.
So, from what we read, up until very recently, those people who had been put into human trafficking were arrested and with charge, but that's changed now, right? From what we've read, they used to be, the prostitutes would be arrested and they would get, but now that's changed, the law's
Yes,
changed.
well, the prostitution is still a crime. However, the link is always to, once we feed into, find out that we have somebody who's committing an act of prostitution, obviously, we know it all ties back somewhere, so the goal is at some point to try and get information as much as you can to figure out, okay, so you're out here, why are you out here, where are you staying? Because, like, again, no one's staying at home, they're all staying usually around the city hotels that are all around the exact area where they're found. And with a lot of it, it's just all surveillance, but obviously we can contact with them if they'll speak, is finding out as much information as we possibly can. And go back.
So there was that place in Rockland where girls were going that has been, I don't know if it's been closed down.
I think I remember hearing about that one.
Okay, so what happens to these young people who get caught and then you pull them out? What's the percentage, or how much do they?
Percentage numbers I can't tell you as far as rehabilitation or getting them out of that mindset, but obviously it's giving them as many possible resources as possible to be given for counseling, for help, for any kind. Because like I said, 100% what it is this person's their will's been broken down to how they view the world. I mean, so it's not just like something that can be fixed. It's years, and it's traumatic. And it's not just traumatic from what they experience from the person who made them the victim. It's traumatic from everything that they ever experienced. I mean, I don't think you read as much as you want, but you never understand or fully understand exactly what it is that they have, them as each individual would ever have to experience. I mean, the things that they've seen, it's terrible. I don't think anybody ever wants to. I mean, at the same time, you never want to think about that or have to wonder about that, but the ugly truth is that is part of the world I wish didn't exist, but unfortunately it does.
So what could we do?
For help, I brought some information cards. Sometimes what ends up happening with, especially when the victims are juveniles, there's obviously a lot of privacy that goes into protecting them as much as possible, especially when they are juveniles, and given the fact that these end up falling underneath the section of sex crimes. So I have cards here that have local outreaches and stuff like that we would give the victims. You guys can by all means contact them, let them know that you guys are looking to help, what it is you guys can do to help. I know there are several shelters in Sacramento County that I believe obviously take volunteers and stuff like that for help, and it's working with youths and everything else. I believe one of them is Wind. I want to say they moved. I haven't been there in a very long time, but I remember at one point they were down in North South, but they recently moved.
So these places have like safe houses for these girls?
It's not just for these victims if these victims don't have any place to go, but also they deal with other traumatized teens as well.
So the girls that are, and I'm using girls because mostly, but are they from around here, or do they end up bringing a lot of teens from other places?
Like I said, sometimes
or other countries.
Sometimes, like I said, that all depends on what the flow is at that time. Because I remember for a long time we weren't seeing any of that, and I don't know where it was turning into seeing a lot of you're not from Sacramento, you're not from the general area, you're all from somewhere else. And like I said, it ends up being like a core. You'll see them coming from. When they all say where they're all from one geographic area. Like I said, they'll say like, oh, you want to cross everybody, and they're from Portland. You want to cross everybody, they're from Washington.
Do you see many from out of country?
I have not known, but they are here. Those cases are occurring, yes.
Anybody? Yes, we got one here.
I'm wondering, do they actually, like, these resources, do they, like, house the kids that this is happening to?
They can, depending on the resources that they're given, they try to find all resources possible. Some of them do actually are housing for them. Some of them are just what they are, which are just shelters. And they use multiple programs with each other. So they may actually end up using a shelter as a place to be able to stay, but then they're utilizing another program for counseling or for any other kind of help, medical or anything like that, or transitional, because sometimes it ends up being more of a vicious cycle because of what it is and what they've experienced. So it's not just so easy to all of a sudden say, okay, you're done, you're saved, okay, we got you a place to stay, okay, now we got to get you in school, so we get you in school. I mean, they have to reacclimate to a whole different world, a different perspective that they are not used to, and that quite a few of them, quite frankly, they're going to be afraid of. It's going to scare them. They don't understand the having a place to stay, just getting up, coming to school. That's not what they. That's not their world. That's not their norm, and that scares them. And
So do they get hooked up with their families, or does it depend on the quality of the family?
Depends on the situation, depends on the quality of the family. Obviously, if the family had any kind of inkling to play into that, then absolutely not. But other times, it's if they can, yes, they will be taken back to the family. But then sometimes it turns into, again, because we're talking about, like I said, in the end, we're talking about individuals here. And we're talking about individual teenagers, young adults, and I mean, you guys have all seen it, even just among yourselves with your friends and stuff like that. There may have been, obviously, everyone has those situations where you're with your friends or something, like they want to do something, you're like, yeah, we're not doing that. And you're like, no, I'm doing that. And you're like, we're not doing it. You're never going to sway it. And they're going to go off and do it, any number of things. And that's, again, they're individuals. So they could be taken home, obviously, as much support and love from a family as they're possibly giving them, everything they possibly can. But that's not where they want to be. That's not how they're feeling at that moment. They take off. And unfortunately, sometimes when they take off right back to whoever was victimizing. Because then it starts turning into, sometimes they get that feeling of that's all they know.
Has it ever gotten to the point where where you help them all day, you've done everything, they just, in their head, they just don't know anything else? Has it ever gotten to the point where you just have to give up? There's nothing else to really do?
There's always that aspect of it. That ends up being on to the individual who's trying to do the help as much as possible. I personally try to never give up, and just hope that at one point, either just hope that the other person's going to see it, that they'll be all right. Don't know when they'll see it, if they'll see it. The hope is just maybe they will, and you just hope that. It's about the best you can do. The only thing I can say is, other than that, you can keep on giving them as much help as you possibly can, and help them as much as you can. But at some point, it is going to be on the person.
Is there an age limit that when it turns into a different set of rules because they're over 21?
Once they're 18, once they're considered to be an adult, they're an adult. So at that point,
then do services change, or do they get put?
No, services are still there. It's obviously some of them will be different spectrums of services. But as far as like the more direct intervention, some of that stuff kind of isn't really there. Because that ends up being more obviously when it's juveniles and stuff like that. There's obviously you have child protective services, all this stuff. Everybody coming in to help them, but like once it goes to adult, it's almost pretty much they're there, but they obviously rely very much on the individual to, hey, it's over there, gotta go get it.
How do you approach such a situation where you see a victim that's like not in action, but you see them going through that? How do you go up to her and try to help?
Just try to talk to the person. I mean, there have been situations where obviously they don't want to talk because I've obviously told them to talk to you. Anything else, just find a way. Try to talk, find help. Give them as many options as you can. It's difficult, and like I said, every situation is different. Because some victims will, they won't say anything. They won't do anything to help you help them. Some of them are asking for help. It's just very different.
Has there ever been a situation when someone came up to you and was wanting help to get?
Not out of that situation. Like in general, yes. No, that doesn't happen often. Sometimes there's the nonverbal side of it where somebody's not specifically asking for help, but what they're doing is obviously asking, like their behaviors are obviously stating something like they want help. But as far as actual help, it's very rare that I've actually run against them. For me, and that's just me and my experience.
No other questions?
Yeah.
So thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, with these cards, these are all the, these are some of the help cards that we've given out, or the help cards that we do give out to anybody we can for that need help, domestic violence, all that stuff. Like I said, some of them are just going to be shelter numbers, but if you call them, if you guys are interested in looking to help in any way, or however it is you guys want to do whatever it is you guys can, just go ahead and you guys can call the numbers and say, hey, I'm a student, I'm just, I've heard about this. This is what I've heard what you guys do. I just want to help. Is there anything I can do to help? I've heard something about you guys some of you were concerned about considering like charities or stuff like that, so they might be able to give you that information. Or if you guys were looking to go help, you guys can say, hey, when do you guys need help? What do you guys need help with? Do you guys need? It could be something as simple as going to the shelters and helping out, like in the kitchen with, or any number of things.
Maybe they have lousy libraries or
Could be any of that as well.
Organization helps runaway teens as well. And when I was teaching junior high, we did like bags for them. So we called and said, what do they need?
Yeah.
They wanted socks and toothpaste or toothbrush and journals. So like gave them things like that.
Yeah, no, a lot of them, that's a good point, because a lot of them, when they do end up going there, a lot of them don't have anything. They go in, they have the clothes that are on their back, they don't have anything, they don't have a backpack. And that turns into, and again, those small minor things can turn into issues for them when they're trying to reacclimate into a regular society, coming to school. Something as simple, their idea is, well, if they could be going, I don't have a backpack, so I'm going to be seen as some kind of weirdo because I don't have a backpack. Well, that starts sending them down a little bit, and they start compounding it with everything else. Because then when you talk to them, like, dude, no one's going to care if you have a backpack. But to them, they believe it's just working. But yeah, usually some of them, a lot of them, they may only have what's on them, which could seriously just be the clothes on their back.
Even weave, you guys, even escaping, women
Weave.
escaping
Weave is another one.
violent environment, I gave all my baby clothes to them because some of those women leave in the middle of the night or they leave someplace for their babies or
So we can talk about it, think about it.
Yeah, Weave is on here, but yeah, several other crisis
We can make phone
shelters.
calls and see if you want to get involved. It could be something like collecting books. It could be collecting toothpaste and socks and making,
journals. Books are, anything I think that makes people feel normal because they haven't been in a situation where it was at all normal or that they had things. I'm sure if it's not like, hey, it's cool you read, work.
Reading is power, and we don't want that.
Well, they'll say that when they're in the midst of trying to control the person.
Yeah.
But in the second the person starts to show some kind of individuality, questioning, or looking like they're going to break away, then it comes down.
Thank you.
You guys are very welcome. You guys can pass these around.